Hey now, today we're going to take a look at Warmachine High Command Faith and Fortune. I'm not going to turn this box up too much because much like with the other Hordes and Warmachine High Command games, those cards will go everywhere. This is a standalone game in the High Command line of games. So there's the Hordes High Command standalone game, Warmachine High Command, and now Faith and Fortune, which all can be played standalone or mixed together. And there's also been many expansion packs for both, Warmachine and Hordes High Command released over the past year since the last Gen Con when the original High Command debuted. And I've got a few of the expansion packs. I'm not going to review all of them because some of them just add specifically cards to, just a few cards to each different faction. Don't really change the game in any kind of a drastic way. But a quick thing about High Command is that, it was a smash hit at Gen Con 2013. It really, sold a ton of copies. A lot of people were talking about it. But after that, no one was really talking about it too much. I think that a lot of people had some serious issues with the whole colorblind, unfriendly aspect of the game, the tiny text and the design. And some people were just not happy with the sort of deck building mixed with smash up type mechanics. Although it definitely had its niche group of people who really enjoyed it, including myself. But unfortunately, I think I'm the only board game vlogger reviewer of note, if I am of note, that's actually liked the game a lot, including the board game reviewer who did not enjoy the game at all. And because of that, that kind of sealed this game's fate. But hey, lots of content is still coming out. I think it still has the people that love it, including myself. And if you don't know what this is a deck building game set in the Warmachine miniatures game universe. The other standalone games in the set each debuted 4 factions, and then the tiny expansion packs just added to those. This one also has 4 factions, but 4 brand new ones. You have 2 mercenary groups, which I didn't even know existed in the Warmachine universe. Then you have the Retribution of, I'm not going to say this right, the Retribution of Skyra, and the Convergence of Cyrus. The Convergence of Cyrus are like humans, but they've dedicated themselves to machinery, and it's kind of like a weird Borg type thing. And the Retribution of Skyra, I think that's how you say it, is probably the one faction I would actually want to play if I played the actual miniatures game. So I was excited to finally get a hold of that faction in the High Command game. They're like a nation of elves, but they've kind of they still like technology, and they make high-tech golems that can compete with the other Iron Kingdoms, warjacks, things like that. But anyways, this is a standalone game. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the new cards that come in this. I'm not going to teach you how to play it. If you want to, you can go and check my previous Warmachine High Command review. Also my Hordes High Command review, although I don't explain how to play it in there either. But I'll go ahead and show you some of the new cards, then we're going to come back. I'll let you know what I think. Okay, I'm just going to run you through some of the new cards that come in the Warmachine High Command Faith and Fortune standalone set. You have 4 brand new factions that you can use with this standalone game. You can mix and match them with the previous Warmachine High Command and Hordes High Command games, and with any of the other small expansions that came out, but it can also stand on its own. Along with, you also have new location cards, but the Winds of War cards seems to be exactly the same, if I'm not mistaken, as the previous set, so we're not even going to bother going over those. The 4 new factions that you have are the Retribution of Skyra. You have the 4-Star Syndicate, which is one of the mercenary companies from the Warmachine universe. The Highborn Covenant, another type of mercenary units, and then you have the Convergence of Cirrus. The Convergence of Cirrus is like a machine cult, sort of like the fantasy version of the Borg, I'm kind of imagining. And by the way, the Retribution of Skyra is probably one of my favorite factions. They're like an elven clan who has dedicated themselves not just to nature, but to technology. So I think they're sort of the opposite of the Circle Ouroboros from Hordes. But in any event, let's go through some of the new locations that come. And of course, these are kind of keyed in to the different factions in certain ways, sort of the same kind of flavor. So we have the Gate of Mist that's worth 6 victory points. When you tally victory points, you choose an opponent. You gain 1 victory point for each Warcaster or Warlock card in that player's occupying forces pile. You have Kalbak. When you tally victory points, you gain 1 victory point for each other location card that you captured this game. Raiden. When you tally victory points, you gain 3 victory points if your occupying forces pile includes at least 3 resource cards and 3 warrior cards. Some of these factions are really powerful for warriors in particular. And Ladry, you can discard this card to refresh all cards in your reserves instead of discarding for each one. Now, that's not every location. There's just a few that I thought were kind of interesting. Now, let's take a look at the Retribution of Sira faction. Here's a couple of their new warcasters. You have Assyria, Sibyl of Dawn. And this is like, it's hard enough to see things with my camera, but in true High Command fashion, this is the smallest text ever. So just kind of bear with me. Battle Mage Commander, friendly Warjacks get +1 power, and Dawn's Light. Increase the power of each friendly card at Assyria's location by its base power. Note that her power is 0, so I thought that was really interesting. Then you have Kalissa, Knight's Whisper. Her special ability is that enemy cards at Kalissa's location have 0 power. Very, very powerful. Some of the faction cards, you have this warrior card, the Stormfall Archer Company. If there is only one enemy card at this location, this card gains +2 power. The Soulless Expendables are really cool. They're only 1 command to put out, and they're a 4/4. But when this card is destroyed, you move it to your occupying forces pile. They also give you no resources whatsoever. So that's a tricky card, but it could be really good. Just pure glass cannons. The Arcanist Company. You can, at the start of your battle step, draw 1 card for each friendly warjack at this location, then discard this card. The Retribution of Sira have a lot of cards that have to do with drawing cards and discarding cards. This is very interesting. The Gorgon. Enemy abilities cannot move enemy cards to or from this location. That's good because a lot of the other, at least one of the mercenary companies is all about moving cards. House Shael Battle Mages. If there is only 1 enemy card at this location, this card cannot be destroyed. And lastly, we'll look at the Phoenix, which is like the most powerful warjack in the deck. At the start of your battle step, draw 1 card, discard 1 card. See what I was saying? All right. Now we'll take a look at the 4-star Syndicate. Captain Finn. This is like a whole pirate deck, and this is interesting too because this deck, and to a lesser degree, I think the other mercenary deck, the Highborn Covenant, they actually are, because they're a mercenary company, they're actually a hodgepodge of like humans and dwarves and undead. It's pretty interesting the way that they went about that. Anyways, Captain Phineas Shea. When you rush cards to Shea's location, you pay their purchase cost instead of the rush cost, which is pretty cool. Magnus the Traitor. When you rush Magnus, you can deploy a warjack to his location without paying its cost, but it is destroyed at the end of the turn. So something to keep in mind. Some of their other faction cards, you have Cutthroats and Highwaymen. When you deploy or rush this card, you can destroy 1 enemy warrior card at this location. Warjack Renegade. If there's only 1 enemy card at this location at the start of an attack here, increase this card's power by its base power until the end of the turn. Toro says that at the end of your turn, reveal the top card of your army deck to all players. If it's not a resource, return this card to your hand. There's actually a lot of cards that do that sort of pulling off the top of the deck thing. Risen Thrall Mob, you can deploy this card from your discard pile. That's one of some of the undead. The Trollkin Sellswords. At the start of an attack at this location, reveal the top card of your army deck. If it's a warrior, the card cannot be destroyed this turn. And the No Badge, you're going to do the pulling thing, but in this case, if it is a resource, you return this card to your hand instead of destroying this card. Alright, the Highborn Covenants. For Warcasters, we have Gorton Grundback. When you rush Gorton, you can move 1 enemy card from this location to another location. So this is the deck that's a lot about moving. Nicolene Bodale. When you rush Nicolene, she gains power equal to the number of warrior cards in your discard pile. There's also a high emphasis on warrior cards. The Talon Warjack. Enemy warjacks cannot be rushed to this location. Amethyst Rose Gun Mages. When you deploy or rush this card, you can choose a warrior here. It has 0 power until the end of the turn. The Jack Hunter Company. When you deploy or rush this card, you can choose a warjack or war beast here. It has 0 power until the end of the turn. So note, like I said there, it mentioned war beast, so you can also mix this with hordes. Rulik Alliance. When you discard this card for Commander War, you can also move 1 friendly warjack to a different location. Every faction has a card that's just like this or very, very similar to that. Ogren Bodyguard. Friendly warrior cards without shield guard at this location cannot be destroyed. That's what that ability is, shield guard. And the Precursor Knights. Spell Ward. Enemy Warcaster and Warlock cards at this location have no abilities. I hate that card. Had a really bad run-in with that card. It's proof positive that you should always read the other cards that are at the location. Don't just rush in. All right, and finally, the convergence of Cirrus, the Borg, the fantasy Borgs, I like to call them. Iron Mother Directrix. Her ability, Directrix's base power is equal to the total base power of all friendly cards at this location. That's pretty insane. Aurora, Newman of Aerogenesis, Angel Chick. After your battle step this turn, you can move friendly cards from this location to other locations however you choose. Perforator's Complement, which is an interesting name. At the start of an attack at this location, choose up to one enemy card at this location with 4 health or greater. This card suffers -2 health at the end of the turn. The Galvanizer, the health of enemy cards at this location cannot exceed their base health. That could be annoying. Obstructor's Complement. At the start of an attack at this location, if there are any other friendly warrior cards here, this card gains +1 health until the end of turn. Diffuser. You can rush cards from your discard pile to this location as if they were in your reserves. That's pretty cool. Enigma Foundry Core. At the start of your turn, you can move 1 warrior card with a purchase cost of 3 command or less from your hand or discard pile to this location. So as you can see, this faction has a lot to do with pulling cards from your discard pile interchangeably. And finally, the Modulator. If no cards are destroyed at this location during your opponent's battle step, that opponent must destroy one of his cards here. So that's just a taste of some of the new cards that comes in Faith and Fortune, the new set for Warmachine High Command. So let's get to my final thoughts.
Well, it had been a while since I played High Command, either Hordes or Warmachine, or either of them mixed together. And I was wondering, would I really like the game as much? Maybe other people who have knocked the game are right. They're wrong. This game is still great. It just is so different than every other deck builder that I have. I like deck building so much, but I'm always looking for something that switches things up a bit. It's one of the reasons why Ascension is kind of falling back for me, because I think there are other games that do what it does faster and better, but it's still feeling this, giving me the same itch. But Warmachine High Command is unlike anything else. It's that whole mixture of constructing your own detachment deck that you can buy from, that only you can buy from, of trying to work combos together and getting different card combinations. And if you really want to put that much effort into it, but knowing that you don't have to, you can just choose whatever. But choosing warcasters that have cool abilities for you, and the whole smash up idea of putting units out on location to try to make it pop and take it for yourself. But not only that, getting it into your deck and taking control of it and having points and having new resource abilities to use because of that card, and then having to put those cards, having to sacrifice those forces into your occupying forces pile is a cool concept. So you're not getting it scot-free. You still have to pay for it. And rushing and detaching, all of these things I still really, really enjoy about this game. And with Faith and Fortune, I think that finally I have some factions that I'm like really, really excited about. Like, other factions were fine. I like Signar, and Menoth's okay, but I really like the Retribution of Scry. I really like Convergence of Cyrus, and they have cool abilities. Every faction does feel different. It was something I complained about with the original High Command, that they didn't feel all that different, although I think that, I didn't talk about these, but the expansions really helped along with that. But right out of the gate, I think that the Faith and Fortune factions do feel different. Especially the Retribution of Syra, which is the one that I played a couple of times, and I played Convergence of Cyrus as well. Those feel like they've got really cool abilities. The Retribution has the ability to, you're drawing cards a lot, having more control over your deck. The Mercenary factions feel really cool too, about being able to, one of the factions, I just forget their names, but being able to quickly manipulate your enemies and warjacks and move them around quickly, and influencing warriors a lot, stuff like that. So the factions here feel much more different than the factions in the original 2 games are as well. So that's one way in which they've improved it. So I think that Privateer Press is actually listening to people and trying to improve the game, which is a great thing. Also, they sort of fixed the colorblind thing as well by now at least putting little letters, and still tiny, but little letters next to each of the color bars, because this game was completely colorblind unfriendly before. Not an issue for me, but other people I played it with, it was an issue. And so now you at least can see, okay, yellow, red, orange, whatever. It helps a little bit. The text is still really small, so people that have just bad vision problems in general, it's still an issue, but at least they're making an effort. I still like all of the artwork. I like the theme of the game. It is one of the most thematic deck builders I've ever played, because you're, building your forces and rushing them to battle and going back and forth. I like all of that. It's still a little bit too long for my taste, so it's not going to hit the table all the time compared to other deck builders, but I think that if I still enjoy it. If you like deck builders, if you want a unique experience, you should try out High Commands. I think that this box in particular has some of the most fun decks I've played with, and just has a really cool feel to it, and has the most improvements, I think, over time. But if you buy this and enjoy it, consider getting the other standalone sets as well, because I don't think you'll be disappointed. I don't know why this game doesn't get more love, but I wish that it would. And I'm actually eager to get even more of the small expansion packs now, because this is a great game and I want to play it more. My name is Nick, this has been Board Game Brawl, and I'm reminding you to get out there and game every day and in every way. Take care.